Hello there. It's been 3 years since Brexit, and now Great Britain is shaken by the crises of the past few years. Inflation, high interest rates, rising taxes, strikes, and a failing healthcare system are making things difficult for the whole country. There are really many who don't know whether to heed or eat because they have to choose between one. And British economic growth is among the worst of the G7 countries. No, it is the worst. Extrapolations show that British productivity is 4% lower than it would be without Brexit. Exports and imports are 15% lower than they could be if the UK had stayed in the EU. So there are already numbers that show that it really wasn't a good idea. Yes, it has been 3 years since Brexit and was followed by Maxit and stuff like this. The royal withdrawal of Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan. So a lot of exits there. At the end of last year, the biggest farewell to be expected was the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And still, there's no regret. Yes, there is. It's a mixture of Brexit and regret. And a lot of people have that now. More than half of Brits regret the decision to leave the EU, says a lot of experts and polling stations. And many say today, that's not the Brexit I wanted. And that's exactly the problem. Nobody knew exactly what Brexit actually is, because nobody told them. The journalist believes that there will be no short-term solution to Brexit problems, especially not as long as the Conservatives are in power. And Rishi Sunak, Britain's new Prime Minister, could have given people hope, could have done more about the energy crisis and helping citizens. And according to experts, that doesn't happen because the focus is primarily on companies. Rishi Sunak makes politics for the richer half of the population, especially the rich 1%. And I wouldn't even talk about the half, I must say. The UK correspondents find it difficult to imagine that Brexit can be reversed, that Great Britain will rejoin the EU, or at least in the internal and customs market, and after everything that has gone wrong in recent years. There are a lot of ifs and buts about this, but at least the Labour Party is slowly preparing something in the background, because in the next elections, they could be the one who, according to the current polls, will take the wheel again. And that might not mean a return to the EU, but I can imagine at least a rapprochement. The word Brexit, by the way, describes the exit of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland from the EU. The word is composed of Britain and exit, like regret is now Brexit and regret. Since February 1st in 2020, the United Kingdom is no longer part of the EU, because in 2016 the British voted in a referendum with a narrow majority for their country to leave the EU. And after much argument over how such an exit might go, the UK withdrew from the EU on January 31st in 2020. And that's the first time that a member country has left the EU. At the end of 2020, the UK and EU signed a contract that laid down how the future relations between the EU and the UK would be structured. Among other things, the treaty contains important regulations for business and trade. One of the rules states that EU residents can no longer easily work in the UK. They need a work permit for this, people that want to go there now. I'm not talking about the people that have been there before Brexit. And so Brexit is a gift that keeps on giving, and I had some interesting thought today. Might be that I'll be still sitting here with 80 talking about Brexit and the consequences that are still visible. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.